Right now, somewhere in the world, there's a number sitting in a bank account that isn't real. Nobody printed it, nobody earned it, nobody walked into a branch and handed over a single dollar of it. It's a typo, a computer hiccup, a few extra digits that appeared out of nowhere. And here's the strange part. If you tried to spend that fake number, it would buy you a real car, a real house, real vacations. And then, a few weeks later, it would buy you a prison sentence. So how does money that doesn't exist do all of that? How does a glitch worth basically nothing turn into $1 million and a criminal record? And why does the same thing keep happening over and over to people who genuinely thought they'd just gotten lucky? To understand any of this, you have to understand one uncomfortable fact about your own bank account. The money in it isn't actually there. I don't mean that in a spooky way. I mean it literally. When you check your balance and it says you have a few $1,000s, you're not looking at a pile of cash sitting in a vault with your name on it. You're looking at a number in a database, a promise. The bank is telling you, we owe you this much, and if you ask for it, we'll give it to you. But the cash itself, it's been lent out, moved around, invested, turned into other people's mortgages. Your money is a number on a screen that everyone has just agreed to treat as if it's real. And the whole system, the entire global banking system, runs on one thing: the gap, the tiny window of time between when the number changes and when the money actually moves. And that gap is where the glitch lives. Here's where it gets interesting. In August 2024, people discovered that gap by accident. It started on TikTok, of all places. Someone figured out that if you deposited a check into a Chase ATM, the bank would show that money in your account almost immediately, before the check had actually cleared, before anyone had checked whether the check was even real. So for a short window, the number on your screen said you had the money, even though the bank hadn't received a single cent yet. Normal people would shrug at that, but somebody looked at that window and thought, what if the check is fake? What if I write myself a check for thousands of dollars from an account with nothing in it, deposit it, and then withdraw the cash before the bank realizes the check is garbage? And it worked. For a few days, it actually worked. People were walking out of Chase branches with stacks of cash that came from checks worth absolutely nothing. They filmed it. They called it the infinite money glitch. They told their followers it was free money, a loophole, a hack the banks didn't want you to know about. And the videos spread like wildfire. But here's the thing they didn't understand. It was never a glitch. That window, that delay between deposit and clearing, isn't a bug in the system. It's a feature. It's the way checks have worked for decades. When you deposit a check, the bank fronts you the money as a courtesy, trusting that the check is good, because almost always it is. The glitch these people thought they'd found was just the banking system working exactly as designed, except they were feeding it lies and treating the trust as a vending machine. And the system, it turns out, has a very long memory, because once that fake check bounced, days later the number went back to where it should have been. Except now these people had already spent the cash. So their accounts didn't just go back to zero. They went deep, deep into the negative. We're talking accounts showing minus tens of thousands of dollars. So now picture this. You're sitting there having posted a video of yourself bragging about free money, your full name on the account, your address on file, your social security number tied to everything. And the biggest bank in America has all of it. JP Morgan Chase didn't just shrug and patch the hole. They started suing people. One man in Houston ended up owing the bank nearly $291,000 after an accomplice deposited a fake check for $335,000. And it didn't stop with the big fish. The bank started sending letters to over 1,000 customers, even ones who took smaller amounts, demanding the money back and dragging them into court across multiple states. So the free money cost people their savings, their credit, and in some cases, a criminal fraud case. All from a gap that was never theirs to exploit. But here's the part that should actually make you stop and think. Those people had to commit fraud to make it happen. They had to write fake checks. They had to do something wrong to trigger the windfall. What about the people who didn't do anything wrong at all? What about the ones where the bank itself made the mistake and just handed them a fortune? Because that's a whole different story, and it's so much stranger. Let me take you back to 2009, New Zealand. A man named Leo Gao ran a struggling gas station in a small city. His business was in trouble, so he did the most boring, responsible thing a business owner can do. He went to his bank, Westpac, and applied for an overdraft, a small line of credit to keep the lights on. He asked for around $100,000. Reasonable, normal, the kind of request banks process 1,000 times a day. But somebody at the bank made a mistake, and instead of a small overdraft, they loaded his account with $10 million. Now stop and imagine being him. You wake up, you check your account, expecting to see your modest little credit line, and instead you're staring at $10 million. Money you didn't ask for, money you know isn't yours, money that, for a brief moment, the system genuinely believes belongs to you. Most people would call the bank. Most people would assume it's a mistake because it obviously is. But Leo Gao didn't call the bank. He told his girlfriend they were rich. And then, over the next few weeks, the couple started moving the money. They transferred millions of it overseas, into accounts in Hong Kong and China. They withdrew chunks of it. And then, before the bank had even noticed anything was wrong, they fled the country.
And here's what makes this so wild. The bank didn't catch it instantly. It took days for Westpac to even realize what had happened. By the time they did, the couple was already gone, and millions of dollars had already vanished across borders. The bank had to call Interpol. There was an international manhunt for a small-town gas station owner. His girlfriend went on the run for almost 2 years. When she was finally caught, her defense was almost funny. She claimed she thought Leo had won the lottery, as if $10 million just shows up in your boyfriend's business overdraft account because of a scratch ticket. It didn't work. He was extradited and sentenced to over 4.5 years in prison. She got home detention. And the money? The bank only ever recovered a fraction of it. The rest was just gone, gambled away, and scattered across the world. So here's the question that breaks your brain. He never hacked anything. He never wrote a fake check. He never lied to a machine. The bank put the money in his account. They handed it to him. So why is it a crime to spend money that was literally given to you? And the answer is the entire reason the system works at all. Because in the eyes of the law, you never owned that money. Not for a second. Money that lands in your account by mistake isn't a gift. It isn't yours to keep. It doesn't matter that the bank made the error. It doesn't matter that it appeared in your account with your name on it. If you know, or you should reasonably know, that the money isn't yours, then spending it is theft. Plain and simple. The number on your screen being wrong doesn't transfer ownership. It just transfers temptation. And this is where it gets even more interesting. Because once you understand that rule, you start seeing this exact same story play out again and again, like the system has a recurring nightmare it can't wake up from. Take the woman in Louisiana, a former 911 dispatcher. A financial company made an error and dropped over $1 million into her account. Not a check she faked, not a loophole she found, a clean mistake by the company. And what did she do? She didn't just sit on it. She immediately moved the money to another account. And she went shopping. She bought a house. She bought a brand new luxury car. Within days, as if speed would somehow make it hers. It didn't. She was arrested, charged with theft and fraud, and lost her job. Because moving the money fast and spending it fast doesn't make you the owner. It just makes you look like someone who knew exactly what they were doing. Or take the couple in Pennsylvania. Their bank account had about $1,000 in it. Normal life. Then one day, a bank teller punched in the wrong account number, and a $120,000 deposit meant for someone else landed in their account instead. And instead of reporting it, they went on a 2.5-week spending spree. They bought an SUV, a camper, four-wheelers, a race car, with money they knew wasn't theirs. When the bank came calling, the wife told them the money was already spent. They tried to work out a repayment plan and then went quiet. So the bank brought in the police, and the couple got hit with felony theft charges. The husband summed it up perfectly outside the courthouse. He said they'd taken some bad legal advice, and it probably wasn't the best thing in the end, which might be the understatement of the decade. So now you've got the pattern. A glitch, a windfall, a spending spree, and then the hammer comes down. Every single time. And you start to wonder, if it ends the same way every time, why does anyone ever fall for it? And that's the real glitch. It's not in the computer, it's in us. Because when that number shows up, it doesn't feel fake, it feels real. You're looking at your own account, your own name, a balance that's supposedly yours, and your brain does this thing where it quietly rewrites the story. Maybe it really is mine. Maybe they meant to send it. Maybe nobody will notice. The temptation isn't really about money. It's about the gap between what the screen says and what's actually true, and how badly we want the screen to be right. And that brings us all the way back to the thing I said at the start, the thing that should genuinely unsettle you a little. The whole banking system isn't held together by vaults full of cash. It isn't held together by airtight code that never makes mistakes, because clearly it makes mistakes all the time. It's held together by trust, by the unspoken agreement that when the number is wrong, you give it back. That if a bank accidentally hands you a fortune, you'll pick up the phone instead of running to the airport. That's it. That's the foundation. Not steal, not security, just the assumption that most people, most of the time, will do the honest thing when nobody's watching and the money is just sitting there. So when somebody finds a glitch and tries to drain it, they think they're beating the system, but they're not. They're proving why it needs the trust in the first place. Every fake check, every flet couple, every spending spree. It's the system catching someone who forgot the one rule that holds the whole thing up. The number isn't the money. The number is a promise. And promises, when you break them, have a way of coming back with lawyers. Here's the part nobody tells you. The next time you open your banking app and the balance looks normal, just remember what you're actually looking at. Not cash, not gold. A number that everyone, the bank, the government, the stores you shop at, has simply agreed to believe in. The entire system is running on that belief, every second of every day. And the people who tried to exploit the glitch, they didn't break the system broke them. Because the one thing it will never, ever let you keep is money you were never supposed to have.